So my father called us together and said, Heinz, you are not going, we are going to go into hiding. And I said, what do you mean going into hiding? Children hide, but we go in hiding and couldn't make it out. And my father explained, he found members from the resistance. You must understand that by that time, Hitler had occupied practically the whole of Europe in 1942. It got to Denmark, Norway, Belgium, France, Greece, and all the Balkans. Was all occupied by the Nazis. Quite unbelievable, quite amazing. And so there, what was I just saying? He explained to me, so there was in all those countries was a resistance movement. People who from that organization, they shot particularly bad Nazis, they blew up trains, they got weapons and radios from the British by parachutes, by aeroplanes, all kind of things they did. They printed ration cards, but as well, and that is very, very important, many of them opened their homes to hide Jewish people. So my father explained, the apartments are quite small in Holland, because it's a big population and quite a small country. There's a lot of water there, so they're quite small. And I said I couldn't find a family who was going to take 4 people, so we have to split up again. So he explained I was going with my mother and Heinz will go with him. And I started to cry. I didn't want to be separated again. And my father explained, if we are in 2 different places, the chance that 2 of us will survive is bigger. So survive. So I was 13 at the time, so I realized that it is a matter of life and death. And that is pretty scary. But my father said, well, the war won't last long. America is already in the war. Probably by Christmas it will all be finished. But it lasted another 3 years. So this is what happened on the Sunday morning. My mother and me went to one address, and my father and mother went to a different address. We were in hiding for 2 years, from 1942 till 1944. In many different places, because the Nazis knew that from the 10,000 young people who had been called up, perhaps 5,000 had not gone. So they really wanted to catch every Jew, especially the young people. So they did house searches. So at night, always at night, there was a knock on the door where we were hiding, where my father was hiding, where many other people were hiding. And the Dutch people had to open their door, let the Nazis come in, search their homes, and if they found objects they liked, if there was a silver candlestick or a painting they liked, they just took it. So you can imagine the Dutch were really, and in other countries was all those countries was the same thing. They were really very upset with the occupation, really hated it. So there were a lot of things going on with the resistance people. But on the other hand, as it looked at the beginning, 42, 33, as if the Germans were going to win the war, every country had as well a lot of Nazis, supporters of the Nazis, so Dutch Nazis as well. And they didn't wear uniforms, so you never knew if you could trust people or not. So it was really very difficult to find good people who were safe to help us. But anyway, so after 2 years in hiding, we had changed perhaps 7 times to different hiding places. Because, for instance, there was a rumor going on in one place where there were people hiding, and the Nazis came at night and searched in the house, and the beds were still warm where the people had stayed. And so they demolished the whole apartment till they found people. Because in every hiding place, again, the people from the resistance came and built a hiding place within the hiding place. So they made a false partition, sometimes behind the cupboard, sometimes even under the floorboard. So if people hear stories like that, you know, that they demolished the whole house, and the people, of course, the hosts were taken away as well. Not killed, but there were camps in Holland where those people were as well. Very, very badly treated, hard labor, little food, and many of them perished. So in 1944, my father and my mother were in the country, and he phoned my mother. We were in touch by phone, and said the woman where they were staying is blackmailing them for more money. And he said, well, you know, we haven't got much left. If you can't go to work, we had some saving, but after 2 years in hiding, it was going very, very low. He had some jewelry which we sold, but that was it. He said, if the war lasts much longer, the woman is going to throw us out anyway. So please find us a hiding place. Well, it was very, very difficult. We were in touch with people from the resistance, but it took about 3 weeks till a Dutch nurse came forward and said she has a safe place. And my father and mother escaped from the woman and died and met the nurse in Amsterdam, and they took them to the safe house. And we were very near where they were. So we decided, because I was very, very miserable in hiding. I missed my brother and my father. I was not like Anne, writing books or anything. I was an outdoor child. I wanted to be outdoor, playing and so on. So my mother and father decided we would visit each other. My father and brother never went out. They looked more Jewish. My mother and me looked quite Dutch, blonde hair and blue eyes. So we took a chance. And so we went to visit them on a Sunday when they had moved. They were very happy. It was a nice place, and it was near us. And we went back home again. And on Tuesday, it was my 15th birthday, and the host made a little celebration for me. We got an egg to eat for breakfast. You know, food was very, very scarce. We were always a bit hungry, but they had specially saved an egg. And the son of the house had prepared a little present for me, but he said after breakfast, and suddenly there was a knock on the door. Nothing happened usually in the morning, and the owner opened the door, and the Nazis stormed in. And they went straight for my mother and me, and they took us away and to the Gestapo headquarters, and they took me apart, and they threw me in a little room where there was just a table with 2 chairs, big picture of Hitler on the wall, and very spotlight on me, and they started to shoot questions at me. Where were you those 2 years? What happened? Who helped you? Where did you get your ration cards? And I must tell you, I was in complete shock. I thought, well, this is the end of my life. I couldn't speak, I didn't say anything. Then they started to beat me up really violently, and I got even more into shock. Then they told me they're going to kill my brother if I don't talk. And that was really, I realized they must be here as well. And I just couldn't understand anything anymore. And I started to cry, and well, they just pushed me around a bit, but said, let me go. And they threw me in a little room where my mother, my father, and my brother were. And my father explained that in this house where the nurse was, the Nazis came in with their own keys. And had a chat with the nurse. So obviously, when we went to visit them, they followed us, so they knew where we were, and so all 4 of us were arrested. So you can imagine my birthday is something I will always remember. And we were taken a night in a prison, and the next day on an ordinary train we were taken to a holding camp. From all those towns, countries where people were supported, so they are not of course deported immediately to the east, where the death camps were, but there were always holding camps where they waited for transports to go, the big transports to those different camps in Poland and Germany. So there are over 300 camps in Germany and Poland, death camps. You were not allowed to listen, of course, to foreign radio, but the people where we were hiding, usually people from the resistance, wanted to know, of course, what was going on. You were only allowed to listen to Dutch and German radio, where you, of course, you didn't hear what really went on. But of course, foreign radio, especially the BBC, that broadcast out to all the occupied countries in their own languages. And I remember at 9 o'clock was a Dutch broadcast, and it started with da-da-da-da, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. This is the BBC from London with the news. And they always mentioned how the war was going, but always as well about warn people about the 300 death camps in Germany and Poland, where Jewish people were systematically being gassed. So it was no secret. You know, later I've never met a German who knew what was going on. So we never knew about anything about camps with gassing. That's of course a big, big lie. Those camps in Germany especially, of course, were always next to big cities, and the transport were going, and you know, there was a smell in the air. Everybody knew what was going on, but people didn't want to admit it. So we were taken to this holding camp, and a very interesting story called Westerbork. And a couple of years ago, I spoke for the very first time in Westerbork. And I always, and in my books, I always say we were taken on Wednesday, we were from the prison taken to Westerbork, and on Friday, we were already put on transport to the east. And when I spoke in Westerbork, the man said, no, you were not taken on that Friday, you were taken the next big Friday. And I said, no, I don't remember anything about Westerbork, and no, we were taken after a couple of days. And he showed me the date, no, you went 10 days later. And, well, I had to accept that, but what it shows you that all this time, I just blanked it out. I must have been a long time in shock, which is quite amazing. You as a psychiatrist must understand that, you know, I honestly didn't remember anything. 10 days to was in a place and it's completely gone. And every other detail I know so exactly. It's imprinted in my head, but this time it was gone.
But isn't it the case that actually some Roma people were taken on the train and they found that they had a little bit more room? So some Jews were chosen to go in this transport, and you were on it. So is it possible that in fact you did go earlier?
No, I'm on a list. In Westerbork, I have a list of all the people who went on each transport. And at the time there were gypsies, you know, who were as well taken on the camps. They were caught, and of course they wanted to get the gypsies out quicker than the Jewish people. This is another thing. You know, this camp Westerbork was run actually by Jewish, he was called the governor, but it was under German supervision. And the Germans told this governor, whenever there's a transport going, he must make a list of people. He gave him the number of list of people. So he would say to him on Wednesday, on Friday morning, I want a list of 800 people, for instance. And this man had to pick people who he knows he was going to send to his death. So can you imagine what a horrible, horrible job that was? So, so anyway, so I was put next week, our family was put on the list and we were transported eastward. Of course, they never told you where you were going. There were, of course, the terrible, terrible death camps, but there were as well work camps. So you didn't really know yet your fate. So, but it was, of course, not any more ordinary trains, but it was, well, good trains. I call it cattle trains, bit like a, well, like you see nowadays where the containers, this really was an iron thing with just floorboard, nothing was in it. There was just a little window with barbed wire across. I think it was specially made because goods train wouldn't have windows. And the iron doors, and you put 2 buckets in. We were about 80 people in one of the wagons, and 2 buckets, one for clean water, the other one to be used as toilet. There was nothing in it, just the floorboards. And so the iron door was closed, and that was it. And there was not enough room for people to sit, all of us, so we had to take turn, standing, sitting down sometimes, getting through the air, because it was quite big, and if you were not near the little slit of air, you really sophisticated. So it was really, really terrible, terrible, terrible journey. Once a day, they opened the door, and they threw big chunks of bread in, like you would feed wild animals. As well, the buckets were exchanged, but you know, 1 bucket for 80 people for 24 hours, you can imagine what a mess that was, and what a smell. Really, really, really terrible. But it was the last time that we were together as a family. And my father, who was a wonderful family man, with tears in his eyes, he apologized to us, said from now on, he can't protect us anymore. He said that he got us out of Vienna, he kept us safe in Holland for 2 years in hiding, but now we'll be on our own. And he gave us advice, always help each other, try to be clean, all kind of things. Later, I had to smile really how he thought some things might be possible. My brother, by that time, he was 16 years old, and I told you he was a wonderful pianist, but in hiding, he told me he had, of course, he had to be quiet, so he started to paint. And he created some amazing artwork. He told me, you'll be amazed when you see what I've done. And before they fled from this house, where the woman was blackmailing him, he told me they hid the paintings under the floorboard with a note on it that this belongs to Hans-Erik Geiger, and after the war he's coming to pick it up again. Of course, when he fled, he thought he was going to go to a safe home, and by 44, really, the war would be finished soon, and he had really great hopes that the war, that he will make it. But at that time, he was really petrified. He was really, as I say, because he was so gentle and artistic, he was very, very afraid of dying. I'll just tell you a little story. When he was 12 years old, we shared a home in Holland, and at night he said to me once, Eva, I'm scared of dying. What will happen when I die? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's ask our father. He has answers to everything. And in the morning we went to him, and Heinz said, Papi, what will happen when I die? And my father said, well, of course, your body will integrate, but if you have children, you will live on in your children. And this 12-year-old boy said, but what if I die before I have any children? And my father thought a bit, and then he said, well, of course, your body will be gone, but whatever you have done, even if you had a short life, you will have done something that people will remember. so it will never be forgotten. And well, he had to be satisfied, he said. And my second book is called The Promise, a little book about Heinz and his art and who he was. And so we have the paintings. No, well, I'll tell you that a little bit later about the painting. We're all running in advance. Remind me that I have to tell about the paintings later. Anyway, so after this terrible, excuse me, after this terrible, terrible journey, I think 3-4 days, train stopped for good, and we heard a lot of dogs barking and shouting, and eventually the doors were opened, and again Nazis shouted, dogs barking, lot of noise, lots and lots of people, and Raus, Raus, jump down, and we looked around and we realized we were in Auschwitz. Well, as I said, we knew about Auschwitz, so we had actually at that time, we thought that's the end of our lives. You can imagine how that felt. The next command was men and women to different sides, because Auschwitz, if ever you visited, there was actually, it was a huge, huge area, many, many miles of Auschwitz was a man camp with proper barracks. Birkenau was a women's camp with temporary wooden barracks. And then there was Bonaway, which was a work camp, and a few other camps. And at the time we had come to Birkenau, and so the men had to walk away. Well, to say farewell to your family, assuming perhaps you will never ever see each other again. So my father embraced me, of course, and then he took me by the hands, looked at me very, very sad, and said, Eva, my Dutch name, Eva, God will protect you. I remember that so clearly. Then my mother and my father said goodbye, and my mother said goodbye to her son, and the men walked away. And the next thing we heard shouting and whispering, Mengele, Mengele is coming. Mengele, you might have heard that name, was a camp doctor. A proper medical man, I would say around 40 years old, looking very, very clean, wonderful uniform, white gloves, a little stick in his head like a conductor. And the next command was rows of 5. Everything was always rows of 5. Or this way, or this way. And he came and he looked you over a fraction of a second and decided right or left.